Well, yeah, let's get it on the road. I'll start early. Let's do this. But you're not the first question. So I will always first come, first serve when it comes to all this stuff, right? So why haven't I talked about Hallman retiring? I don't need to talk about Hallman retiring. Hallman will talk about Hallman retiring when he wants to. So I haven't brought it up because I'll eventually have him on or do it or whatever. But for right now, no. And so I just, he's a really close friend of mine. And when he wants to talk about it with all y'all, he will. But I'm not going to. I'm not going to speak for him. So I get it. I understand people want to know. Like I said, we had a lot of talks before all that even went down. And yeah, it's just something that right now he's not wanting to discuss, I guess. And so I'm not going to discuss it out of, that whole deal. All right. I'm not even looking at this. Have you received views and responses on here with information videos versus controversy? Do you consider that a slippery slope discussing controversy or hit it and quit? I always get nervous about talking about things, whether it be here or on videos. It's pretty crazy too. Think about this. So, we'll talk about this, but I did take y'all's advice. I went and watched the Bilge podcast with Chris and Trey and the polygrapher, right? The guy who does used to do the polygraph for MLF. I listened to it all. I also talked to someone before watching that video. I asked somebody. I'll put it this: we had a discussion about it, and he said, "Yeah, it won't be that big of a deal to you." And I was like, "Really?" And so I understood what he meant after I watched it. It wasn't that big of a deal to me because 90% of what I heard, I already kind of knew. Like none of this was like, you guys got to realize we've been talking about this for none of this surprised me. Now there were some things I didn't know that probably Trait knew. There were some things on there, like she mentioned one or two things from a lake or a situation. There are some people's names that I know their names that were actually discussed that I didn't. I don't know all that stuff that went down. Some of it. But for the most part, all the other stuff, yeah, none of that was a big deal. It's a giant deal. Don't get me wrong. For me, it wasn't something new. It wasn't like something new information. It was listening to the guy in polygraphs was interesting. I've taken quite a few polygraphs over the years. I was calculating up one day about how many tournaments we've probably won over lifetime, probably close to 50. And so I would say you probably took a polygraph on 75, 80% of those. Now, I didn't take them every single time. Sometimes my partner did, vice versa, whatever. It was just depending on how they chose it. I would say that most of the polygraphs, they're not doing an hour and a half long polygraphs. That's never happening. They don't have the time or the effort or all that. I would say some of them are definitely more professional than others. There's been one or two that was like wasn't worth it. And then there was one or two that I know that they had asked me a question that was kind of interesting, or not interesting. What's the word? Very probably wasn't appropriate. And then I had heard that they had done this with other people and they were fired very quickly after that. But most of the ones I've done them quite a bit of times. I actually have done one or two for not, even though we didn't win, still took one. I think the last one for the Texas Team Trail last year, I took one because anytime you made I think they said a check range or a top something top 20 or whatever, they were going to pick someone at random. So I got chosen. So that was the last one I did was last year. So anyways, or the last one I remember. Very good podcast. I'm actually jealous. It was a really, really interesting. They had a really good guy on there. I thought really interesting to hear his take on a lot of things. I know I kind of got sidetracked on this question, but what I found interesting, and this is what I'm going to say. But I found it interesting that is he brought up two people. Well, he brought up three, but he brought up two anglers other than an owner as being very high quality guys in the sense of when it comes to, like, I guess telling, he didn't like saying lying or telling the truth, but showed, if you go watch it, he was talking about like guys that you had to score a certain level to be like a Secret Service and stuff like that. He brought up two guys, James Watson, Ish Monroe. I bring those up because those are two guys that I have on quite a bit. And yet one of them got in trouble. One of them got in trouble maybe for the podcast I did with him and Ish. So it's just funny. The one guy who gets in trouble and gets fined, and he's up here and he has validation of the fact that he tells the truth. So do you ever is it a slippery slope? Absolutely. Slippery slope. I worry about it. There's videos that I put out that I instantly within an hour go check the comments. A lot of times I see the comments based on y'all, based on like how the video is being taken. I'm doing a video tomorrow that I did today about such topic. That's probably when I'm going to go check. Why am I going to go check it? I just want to make sure that people understand what I'm explaining sometimes. But yeah, it's controversial. But here's the deal, man. At some point in time, someone has to say something. It has to be said. And here's the thing I'm going to say. A lot of guys are very controversial on YouTube. Okay. I think they mean to be controversial. There's so many more videos I could put out there about things on the water. And I'm trying to stay away from that because I put them out there and I have to be in the right frame of mind to put them. Interactions on the water. I haven't had any in a long, long time, but I still have a bunch saved. And I just don't like having to deal with what goes on, like responding to comments, responding to things. I mean, listen, I can put stuff in black and white. I can say it 1,000 times. I can say something 2 + 2 = 4, and I can say it over and over and over and over again in the video. And then all of a sudden, some guy's like, you know what? 2 + 2 ain't 4, it's 5. If you think about it like this, and right, you just take it a different way. And so I will say this also, because this is a great question. I now know how y'all feel sometimes when we don't mention names. They didn't mention names on some of those things. Some of the times I knew the names, other times I didn't. You have to realize, though, that it's hard to mention names when nothing is being done about it. When things are happening, he just told you, that guy did, the polygraph, he just told you, things are happening behind the scenes. People know about them, and yet nothing is happening to them. So it's very hard to come out here and then blast someone for that, even though you're probably 99. He's probably 99% sure, right? And he says that he's like, look, man, I can't tell you if you're lying or not, but I can see spikes where there's things. He won't even say it, like, because it is what it is. We're just letting you know what's going on. That's all. And yes, I do worry about it sometimes. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what they might do. I don't know. Right. But I think after making all these videos and doing all these things, there's not really, you can't really go back and point to a time where I'm like, Todd was wrong about that, or Todd was just hating on something. I mean, there's tons of stuff I don't talk about because I think everything's legit. But yes, I do worry about it. I do. But I'm not going to stop. If I have a pretty good certain idea of what's going on, I'm not going to run from that stuff, man. There's a couple guys that don't run from it, and they get hammered sometimes, but they're right. Oh no, yeah. I'm just gonna tell you, I did a video in response to that. So have you received positive response from the company? No. I don't know if he's gonna. I don't know if Bill's gonna watch. I didn't send it to Bill. Sometimes I probably could have, but He might see it. He might get info of it. He might get info of the video I do tomorrow. I don't know. Remember, I've seen guys mention. Okay, so I've always anticipate fish coming or be ahead of them when you're trying to find them. 100% true. That I much rather find fish coming to me than leaving me. What does that mean? So if it's the springtime and it's the start of the spawn, like they're about to spawn but they haven't, I'd rather find fish that are about to spawn, like coming to me towards the bank, rather than being on a deep spot and they're leaving me. So yes, that's how I would say it. A lot of times you don't know, right? It's hard to tell whether they're leaving or coming. The hard part, you can do it off of seasonal things. Like the spawn is an easy one. Like that's probably the most easiest one. And then after the spawn, right? So like you know they've been spawning for a long time. The way to know those things is to have a history of stuff, like being out on the water a long time. And what I mean by a long time, not years. I'm talking about like days ahead of time. So you can kind of see what's going on. So if you're out there and I don't know, say you're in the grass or say you're out there deep and every day you just keep seeing more and more fish or getting more and more bites, you can tell fish are coming to you, not leaving you. If you're flipping boat docks, right? And all of a sudden, like, you know, you get a couple bites here and you couple bites there. And then every single couple days or whatever, you know, you get more and more bites. They're coming to those boat docks, stuff like that. So it's not always easy, but it's better if you can. Sometimes it feels better if that's the way. Breaking down new water, yeah, sometimes it's hard because you get there. If you go get 30 bites a day on a topwater, could you have gotten 40 yesterday? And are you going to get 20 tomorrow? And then being able to decide what's the factor of why you caught more or why you caught less? Could it just be the day? Right. So that's a hard one, you know? Yeah. So I will say this. I did get on the water yesterday on Rayburn. And I'll explain why. So we got a TXTT coming up and a Toyota coming up. The lake has come up a whole bunch from the last time I fished. So I wanted to get a day on the water. Now, the problem is I probably could have gone today. Well, I couldn't go today. I have plans today. I'm definitely not. They're going to be out there Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Invitationals are. I have off limits next week. I'm definitely not going out there while the tournament's going on. I don't want to interfere with those guys. I'd rather have gone today during their off period. I think they have off today, but I'll be honest. I never got within one guy. I was actually making a video out on the water and one guy kind of idled up close to me. I mean, I was just kind of floating around up there. I probably could have talked to him. He didn't get in my way. I mean, I wasn't even fishing. That was as close as I got to anyone. No one else came within yelling distance of me. I will say this. I caught him yesterday. That was the biggest one I caught. And then I caught another one almost as big. And then I caught another one that was big. And so I had one of my, you know, I had a good day. Caught a whole bunch of fish. And it was funny while I was out there catching them. Like sometimes you catch a bunch of 2-pounders. I was sitting there going, MLF style event, BPT style event, I'd be killing it. I'd also be killing it for just a 5-fish deal because I think I had close to 30. But and normally I don't stick fish like that. But I'm I don't know, 13 days away from a tournament, and they're about to go stick a couple hundred fish over the next couple of days. I really wasn't worried about it. And I was fishing almost all new water. Like I said, I was trying to figure. I mean, I went an hour without a bite because like everything had changed. So I was trying to figure out what was going on. And this was the only day I was going to get to practice before. Maybe I could go Sunday. I don't know, but before next week. And like I said, I didn't want to get in those guys. So yeah, I did catch a big one. Caught a couple of big ones. It was fun. It was a fun day. Well, the funny thing about can I go fishing with you? I don't know if anyone's been fishing with me all year. I've got one guy to I got one guy fishing with me next week who works for Strike King. Man, I just like I don't go fishing that much, and a lot of times it's practice. So even like the Texas Team Trail can't practice with me. Brandon Belts can't practice. The Toyotas you can, but I'd probably be practicing maybe with the Coinger. I mean, I just don't go fishing that much, man. I just don't. I don't go fishing with very many people because it's so much more of a job and or practicing. And then when I do go, like the other day, I went fishing as well. Oh, my father-in-law went with me. I caught a bunch of crappie. I'm gonna make a video over that too. But yeah, I wish I could go fishing more with stuff like that. It's just very hard to find days where I'm not doing videos, doing this stuff, doing other tournaments, practices with my kids. I even this weekend I gotta coach a whole basketball tournament. So keep going because I got so far down behind last year. Um, not last year. I'm sorry. I saw this. I got so far last week when I did all this that I couldn't keep up. Oh, and I'm doing a horrible job already. Okay. I'll try that. Between top anglers and average anglers, what separates the best guys from the rest? That's a long, loaded question. I think I I think personally, it starts off number one, like what goes on in your head, like how you view everything. I always I say a lot of my videos, big picture, little picture. I think guys are able to see big picture, little picture a lot. I think we rarely go off of what other people do. Um, I think I think there's yes, time on the I get time on the water. I think is way overrated, and here's why. And when I say time on the water is overrated, come on, obviously it's not. But bad time on the water is like if I just went out there and threw a spinnerbait every single day, all day long, and I did it for 7 days a week, do I become a better fisherman, or do I know more about a spinnerbait? So yes, I know more about a spinnerbait, but I could, and I was catching 5 fish a day, but I could have been out here throwing a jig, catching 25 fish a day, and what would have been better, right? So I think it's here, and then it's time on the water doing things that's actually going to help you. And so I don't go I don't go fun fishing. I don't really want people to go fishing with me because 90% of the time I'm going out there trying to figure and learn new things and do different things and be like, I mean, every time like Rayburn, I literally fished stuff on Rayburn. I don't think people understand how many times I go to Rayburn and fish new water that I've never fished for. I'm shocked that there's even water out there that I can find that I haven't fished. And so it's not new water that I don't know where it is. It's just I fish stuff in a different way. And I'm always just kind of experimenting stuff out there. So that's kind of how I view it. So I think that's what separates us. And then we find glitches in the system. And what I mean by that is like we've been fishing for so long that there are certain things like once we find something that works really well, we capitalize on that. And so while we see everyone doing one thing, and I always tell people I watch other people how they fish. I watched everyone yesterday, and when I say watched, I paid attention to what everyone was doing yesterday in the sense of I see a boat and I see what they're on. They weren't on what I was doing. I could see them all doing this one thing and this one thing. And where I was set up was never in those places. Like I didn't hurt no one was anywhere where I wanted to fish. And when I'm not talking about spots, I'm talking about the way they were fishing the areas around me. And so we pay attention to that. So when I see everyone flipping bushes on Rayburn, I'm like, I ain't doing that. I'm just not doing that. And so I always look to see how do I do something different that no one else is doing. And I just think there's a lot. I mean, it's being good with your equipment and all that stuff. I get it, but I just think you have to be very self-aware too. Like you have to be aware of the fact that if you're catching them practice all the time, but not in the tournaments, there's something wrong there. Where a lot of guys blame it on certain things, like, oh, this happened, this, well, eventually maybe what you're doing is not the right way to do it. I can't tell you how many times I saw guys and we would just, there was a part of me, I think they kind of know now. I think they've got made fun of enough. I'm just saying. But you would see these guys post these practice pics constantly of catching big fit, like just tons of them. It would happen on Rayburn. And we would just laugh because we're like, man, that guy's not going to catch him in the tournament. Because you can't just go out there and just catch giants. So, and yes, did I catch a fish? They were catching multiple fish off the same spot the week before the tournament and then wondered why they didn't catch them in the tournament. I can tell you every single one of my fish didn't come within a mile of the other one, right? And so rarely do I catch them. And I'm not saying I caught 9 of them. I mean, these people were like, yeah, I caught 4 or 5, and then I realized that they were all big. Dude, catch one. Like after I'd catch one, I'm like, yeah, the big ones, or there's a big one in the area. Either way, So that was a long one. I don't want to get into the taxes deal. I pay taxes. He pays taxes. They usually 1099 you separately. So almost every single, the only thing that they might tax us on is like an incentive deal. Or maybe they might have done it with the boat and he'll 1099 me. But everything else, we get separate taxes. So like we get, Emma, if it's a bass champs or Texas team trail, they're going to tax us. They're going to both send us. They split it up. So other than like every once in a while, an incentive might be in your name, and they might have I think they put the boat in his name, and he'll 1099 me. So, my lifetime partner, Russell. I'm just picking Russell. I'm not picking any of those guys. I mean, Denny Brower's second, but I'm going to pick Russell. I have a hydro wave. Does it work? Let me get back to you on that one. Sorry. I don't. Let me get back to you on that one. So we pay attention to the wind all the time. And most of the time, I rarely pay attention. I am not a big believer in wind. I think wind is overrated with things. Does it? This is going to get so. Even it coming out of my mouth, I understand what I'm saying. Here's what I'm saying. I care more. I would rather have the wind not blow in almost every situation ever. Here's the reason why. I think it's harder to catch fish without wind. Okay. I tend to go out there and try to figure out fish without the wind blowing. And if you can do that, and I think like yesterday, it was glass out there. It was perfectly glass. I freaking smashed on them. So I don't like having to depend on wind blowing to catch a fish. Most of the time, when I'm worried about the wind is us not being able to fish it, like fish something. Like that's what's going on right now. Like on Rayburn's so big that wind can hurt you. Toledo, it can hurt you. Like a lot of lakes we fish are so big, wind hurts you. It rarely helps you. And so, and I know you're going to get all these where it's wind blown points and all these different things and stuff like that. There's at times, but very few times where I'm like, man, a 3 or 4 mile an hour wind will help the bite. But chances are in practice, I figured out when it was calm and just and made it. It's hard on everyone, right? So if it's calm for everyone. Everyone has to struggle when it's calm. If it's like that, what happens if you found all these fish on one side of the lake and then it blows from that side of the lake, right? So it's calm and it's blowing on the other side. and it helps someone else out. So I mean, I don't play the wind much. I like a 5 mile an hour wind or dead calm. I'm not gonna lie. He said Watson could protect the president. He could. That's what he said. I didn't say it. That guy said it. That's why he's one of my buddies, man. I mean, you know, I do not have that. I've never done a video on tidal water. I'm not even gonna go try to fake it. I just don't do it. Um, I I don't know much about it. So yeah. Today, how would you rank Seth from Arizona on tournament skill level? I mean, I don't know Seth. I've never been in the boat with Seth. What I would say is he does. They rarely have a bad event, and that's hard. That's hard. And when I mean by here's what I mean by bad events. I've zeroed on Rayburn. I've caught one fit. I mean, I've done bad in events before. They seem to catch them everywhere they go. So I think that's saying a lot from a guy who's not from this state. Yeah. Have you fished OHIV? Never fished OHIV. I've thought about going out there. Thought about doing it. Like I said, I really just don't like doing what other guys do. I don't like. I don't, and what I mean by that is there's guys going out there OHIV and making videos, and I'm sure I can make it. Like I'm more proud of my big ones on Rayburn than going out to OHIV. And the reason that is because when you really look at it, there are a lot of big fish that come from Rayburn. But if you ask people that fish Rayburn, that 11-pounder I caught, ask how many of you have ever caught 11-pounder. Okay. It's got 8s and 9s and 10s in it, right? And there would usually be a 10-pounder for big bass. However, you've got a whole bunch of people fishing Rayburn every single day in every single tournament. And when you got 400 guys out there, minimum, not teams, 400 guys, different guys, and one 10-pounder gets caught in one day, rarely do you see 11-pounder get caught. I know I just caught a 13-pounder out there the other day. That's impressive. It's impressive. OHIV, guys are going out there, and a lot of people are catching 10s. Lots. Like a lot. There's nothing wrong with that. I want to go out there. I want to go out there for different reasons. I just didn't go and have other things and kind of can, like it's very hard for me still. It's hard for me to make YouTube videos sometimes because like I should have probably made a YouTube video yesterday, but I was practicing for that event. I'm going to try to maybe go next week on other lakes because I can't be on Rayburn and do some more fishing videos and things like that. I just, man, wife, kids, I'm not leaving them to go make a YouTube video on the OHIV. I'm just not going to do it. I like to go out there. It sounds good to me. But then when it always comes down to it, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard with everything else going on. But maybe it's clear. It's a kind of lake I want to go fish. So Rick fishes, Rick Harris fishes. I mean, I might go with, like, he invited me. So I might go with, when I say invited me, like, not to get in the boat, but I mean, he's like, come on up here. So yeah, I might. Any updates on the haymaker? Listen, no. I wish there were, but no, I don't have any. I hear MPFL is pretty intense, 40 to 45 minutes. I'm assuming you're talking about, I read this at first and I was like, what is he talking about? Polygraph maybe? Yeah. So yeah, I think they should be in those. It's hard it's harder on the regular team events because you've got everyone waiting around for a check. And He even said it. Like I've always said this about lie detector tests. They're not that, they're not that they sound good and they sound great for controlling everything. Here's what I've always said about them, and this is what I like about them, is they're not permissible in court. Okay. And I'm not saying I know a lot about this stuff, but that's why they're not permissible. You're what I think happens, and this is why I like it, and this is why so many cheaters don't get caught cheating. It's because it's more of a deterrent. And if it throws up all these like red flags everywhere, the tournament director is then aware of something. And I've said that I was going to make a video about this one day. So like back to the first question, is there ever anything that like you get worried about? I talked about some things a while back about some cheaters. Now, have they been caught cheating? No. But I looked on a forum, and a different forum, and it was like from 6 months ago, a year ago, and people were like, yeah, that was kind of Todd was, man, he sure was accusing some people of some things. I'm like, one, they didn't know who I was talking about, but if they were so blind to the fact of what was going on, I mean, guys, like it's here. It's on a silver platter for these guys, right? And I'm going to explain this one more to those guys. I was talking about a very, very select couple of people. We have, I wouldn't say accused people of cheating. We have made it known that I'm like, something's not right with that. We made it known about a couple people in my lifetime. 100% of those people, half of them were caught cheating. The other half don't fish anymore. I have never talked about something, and this is like not publicly, but we have talked about stuff or gone to a tournament director and say, hey, you might want to think about this. All these things don't add up. Like not one thing. I don't care if you catch them in an event. Don't care about catching them in an event. I don't care if you catch the biggest bag ever on Rayburn. No red flags go off, in my opinion. Nothing. There's certain all the guys that went on Rayburn and Toledo and all these lakes, they have the same things in common. Now I can go over the list of these things that are in common. Okay. I think on the professional side too, there are certain things that guys live in gray, and then there's guys that don't live in gray. Now, if I talk about the professional side of guys that live in gray, oh my gosh, I'll get hammered on. Right? But I made it, like I said, some guys live in the gray, some guys don't. Some guys look at the rules. We read the rules for what they are. You can't do this, this, and this, and this. Okay. Duh. Easy. Like can't get info. Okay. Done. If I hear I can't get info for the next week, I heard it once and I'm done. That's all I need to know. Hey man, what's going on? Hey, what's up? I'm on the phone. Hey, by the way, I'm going to Rayburn. I don't want to hear about Rayburn. Don't talk to me about Rayburn. I can't hear nothing about Rayburn. I think there's other guys going, hey man, well, look, we can't talk about Rayburn, but let's talk about something else. Or hey man, and they skirt around, like all they do is like figure out ways to get around the rule, or like interpret the rule the way it is. You know what the rule is. No info. Move on. There's some guys that don't do that. When we were talking about these red flags with these guys, all the guys on Rayburn and Toledo and the lakes we fish around, they all do things a certain way. I can tell you one thing. Most of them, all of them, 100% of us, we suck at times. We will throw a big, giant, horrible tournament. It happens to all of us. I can't tell you. And I want to mention guys' names, but I don't want to. I don't. So I'll tell them myself, I will smoke them and then not smoke them, and then smoke them and then not smoke them. Every one of us guys know that. You might catch 40 pounds this week and 10 pounds next week. And I have seen over 30 years or 20 years the same patterns with the same good fishermen. It's pretty simple. It's not rocket science. And then you see a guy come, then you see people come, and it's like smoke them, smoke them, smoke them, smoke them, smoke them, smoke them, smoke them. Never bad tournaments. Never. We fished every good fisherman I've ever seen. Big tournament, little tournament, big tournament, throw in a tournament here. Then all of a sudden, these other guys that smoke them every tournament, they only fish the big ones. Not the small ones, just the big ones. And when they fish just the big ones, a lot of them are maybe a trailer event here, trailer event there, or something different. And they come out of nowhere. They don't fish any individual events. It's no big deal. Just saying, like, if you want to start naming every single great fisherman on Rayburn, right? Jason Bonds, Derek Mundy, they just won the belt. They fish individual ones, win. Corey Rambo has done it. Chris McCall has done it. Russell Cecil, Chris Wilson. I can just go on and on and on. Cole Moore, he's catching them. Tater Reynolds, he's catching them. These are the new guys. And go new guys, old guys. I just go on and on and on. I'm not saying it's a requirement to fish an individual event. I'm just saying, right? They do. And then they catch them in individual events as well. These other guys don't do any of that. They're always fishing with a family member, something weird, something strange, by themselves, something. There's red flags. They always catch them, right? In these bigger events, never the smaller ones. They don't even fish the smaller ones. It's a random pick and choose. And then all of a sudden you put an observer with the boat and done. Never catch them. 12 tournaments in a row. And you kind of have to look for it. And then all of a sudden, observer, they finally put an observer, never catches them. Never catches them on camera. Why is that? Then all of a sudden, once the observer gets in their boat, maybe once, now maybe twice, never heard of again. Now, I bring this up because the guys that are doing this, I've said over a year or 2 year period, I'm saying, hey, all the guys I just mentioned, Dickie Newberry, I can bring in all these guys. Some of the Stephen Johnston, Phil Marks was in there. I can bring up all these guys who have caught them for all these times. And then these people that you've never heard of aren't just beating them, are beating them in a way that none of these guys that would consider the best guys on Rayburn for the last 20 years, none of these guys have ever done what these people have done. Now, you might be surprised about that, but you've almost never I've always asked this question to people because, like I said, I think about things and I watch this stuff. Be surprised. Find out how many people have ever won back-to-back events on Rayburn. Be thinking a long time. Now I know who has. It's almost it's so rare. I've been able to do this, right? I've been able to win back-to-back events. I've done it 3 times actually. I think the time I've won back-to-back events. A lot of those times was an individual event in there, like a BFL thrown in there or something like that. It's very rare. Ask people, just start looking around. You'd be amazed at how many people have never done it. Yet these guys can do it at will. Some of these guys, like when I say some of these guys, they're not around anymore. They're not fishing anymore. Did they get caught cheating? No, they were the best for 2 to 3 years. They might have been the best fishermen on Rayburn. Never before, never after. Just the events they fished, they were the best people in history of Rayburn. And now they're not fishing anymore. I'm tired. I don't mind bringing that up. And if you want to know who I'm talking about, whatever. It's out there. You can go look. But that's why. And so it should be intense. But they're not intense in those things. Those people never got caught. Or I think that observer and some things, I think it put a deterrent and made it aware for tournament directors and things to do stuff, right? Because I'm 100% guarantee you in that polygraph there were some freaking red flags that went off, just like that guy did. All right, man. Oh yeah, he did say don't take it in a truck or trailer. I know. I've take the trailer one too. Like you're sitting in the back of a trailer taking one, and literally the guy that's doing the announcing and stuff is like talking 10 feet from you, and you can hear him. Yeah, I mean, it's yeah, it's crazy. Uh, yeah. Hold on. Okay. Uh, top BT top 10 at Toledo had 4 guys in it that are. I know. I mean, and the controversy thing is really when I say they're doing it to themselves, not the anglers. Okay, when I say that I can't speak on what the anglers are doing, you know. What I'm saying is MLF is putting them in the controversy because of it. One of these days, they're going to look up and go, the more we try to protect them, the more they're going to get crucified. So they like they're so worried about like hurting someone's career or doing this or doing that. I'll say the other thing too. Listen to this. I'm gonna say this. None of us are perfect. I'm by no means perfect. I've probably broken a rule in a tournament. I've probably done something wrong. I think all of us have. At one point or another, one of us has probably done so, knowingly or unknowingly. Okay. Was it a rule that got you an advantage? No. Did every one of y'all always hook up your life jacket before they kill switch? Right? You might have been 2 seconds late. That's what I'm saying. Was any of it? Most of us, I would say, do things not to get an advantage. Like, right? There's breaking a rule and then like cheating to get an advantage. There's a big difference. What I'd say is this: is I have heard people like, do you notice that certain people will talk about the rules from like way up here and they're like hell bent on it? And then you got other guys that are over here, they're like, hey man, I just don't want to hear about the negativity. I just want to go out there and fish. Everything's good. Why aren't they worried about it? Why aren't they worried about missing a $10,000 check? I've always just been more suspicious of the guy that's not vocal about it. Why is he not vocal? Skeletons in the closet. What is it? I'm not. Some people don't care. So there's some guys that don't. And listen, I'm a guy still too that's like, I'll talk about it. I know what's going on. I know I'm getting beat by guys that are not doing the right things. I still think I can outfish them. So I'm going to go like I'm going to prove them wrong. Okay. And at some point in time, and it sucks. It's just like there's all kinds of things in life that suck. Right. But at some point in time, they won't do anything about it. So what are you supposed to do? Right. I think a lot of guys are defeated as well. They're defeated. They're like, you can't go and sit there. If you called every day and go, hey man, this guy came over and he stole rods out of my garage. The cops come and like, yeah, okay. Hey, we caught the guy, but we're going to let him go. Next day, the guy comes over there, steals your rods, call the cops up. Hey man, yeah, we caught him, but we had to let him go. After like the 10th time, guys are either going to take matters into their own hands, or it's like, I gave up with this, man. I'm done. I'm going to just sell all my rods and like not fish them. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I don't know. All right. I spent way too time on that. I'm long on that. That is true. You shouldn't have to be worried about getting booted from a tournament organization. One, yeah, not for like speaking on, I don't know. That's true. It does. It brings its own set of, and I try to stay away from some of that controversy. I mean, we kind of get into it. Like, I think I'm getting into, I don't think what I'm doing right now is getting into it. Like, I'm not like going off on a certain, I'm not going off on a certain organization. Because this happens, listen, half the stuff I'm talking about has nothing to do with BPT, MLF, I think it's going on with all levels. Every single tournament organization I have seen, I can't think of a single tournament. There's not even close to being one. There's not as close to being one tournament organization that didn't have cheaters and things that kind of got covered up. Sometimes the cover up isn't even that bad. It's kind of like to protect everything because there was nothing they could do about it. I know that's kind of crazy, but sometimes stuff happens and you find out later. And then how do you make right? Like, okay, here's this one. It kind of depends, but they can do stuff in the bigger organizations where you're fishing the next year. But if a guy comes and fishes one tournament, a team tournament, and wins it for 50 grand, right? And everything kind of checks out, or 30 grand, 10 grand. I don't know why I said 50 because it said 50 grand on here the other day. So I don't want to sit there and imply anything with 50 grand. Say 10 grand. Comes and fishes a tournament for 10 grand, wins it, right? 3 months later or a week later or whatever, tournament director gets a phone call and be like, hey, man, you had this rule in here. So-and-so broke this rule. I have video. I have he wasn't supposed to get info. I got a text message, whatever it might be. Is it, if that guy never fishes that tournament, now that organization could say, hey, you're not allowed to fish anymore because we found out you broke this rule and they can't take the money from the guy. The guy already probably deposited the check. What good would it be to make it vocal for everyone? Say the guy's not going to fish anymore, so it's done. It's over and done with. Would you call the people that are fishing and let them know that, hey, man, that guy shouldn't have won the event and everyone should move up a place? That's just going to piss everyone else off. I don't know what the right thing to do there is, but I'm just telling you, like, it's a lose-lose situation, right? So, so the controversial and all that stuff, it's a slippery slope, and it does come with a bunch of other stuff. That's why I kind of sometimes stay away from, I try to. So, yeah, and it sounds like, what's funny is I'm not talking about anyone specific. I have a whole bunch of, the stuff I'm talking about, because I'm not on the professional side. I'm talking about the team stuff. They're not fishing anymore. There's no reason to bring them up. They've been handled and got, but there's not just one. It's multiple people, like multiple team, like it's been going on for years. So like, I can't just think about it like last year. I think about like the last 20 years and the things that I've seen that have gone down. Some people get caught. Some people, move on. You never hear it from again, ever. Like, you wouldn't even know that they exist anymore. Like, they just fall off the place, fall off the face of the earth type deal. So, yeah, I agree with you. I try not to do that. And a lot of times I don't bring that stuff up. It kind of gets brought up in my own, like it gets brought up over a question. There's a lot of there's a lot of times people bring up stuff and I just don't answer it. That's true. And like I said, I do understand the other one. I do understand this. And I don't watch a lot of those podcasts. So like we try to talk about other stuff. Try to. Sometimes though, and I'm not hating on anyone out there. I'm just trying to tell you that stuff is going on. I will say this. You might not like it that people are bringing it up. And I'm not bringing up individuals. I'm I'm talking about stuff that happens. I will say when we talk about the stuff that this does exist, it does shine light on the fact of I think it's harder and harder to I wouldn't say get away with it, but it's shining light on something that has been like stuffed away. I kind of always kind of go back to like the whole steroids in baseball, where it was like it got talked about enough and everything, and it finally, it like once they finally did it, like they got rid of it all. Now I'm not saying people don't use steroids, but now like the consequences like through the roof, right? I mean, you can get banned after the third time. You're getting suspended. Like I think they have solved the major problem of they didn't, when I say the major problem of steroids, where it was like some guys were doing it, some guys weren't, and the guys that were doing it were kind of like, you know, hey, just don't talk about that, right? Where I think eventually baseball had gotten tired of it and said, all right, this now did they, nothing's ever going to be fixed completely, right? I'm sure there's new drugs and new things and all that stuff, but for the most part, I think they handled it to where I think we don't talk about it anymore. I don't know if a single person talks about that with baseball, right? I think it's made everyone, for the most part, try to stay within the rules. Have you heard about the Buzzy Rod? No, I don't know. What do you think of TTT putting their tournament on top of the TTTO at Cedar Creek? I didn't know about that. I didn't know about that at all. I knew that we got changed to the TT, the Cedar Creek. I didn't know it was the same day as the TTO. I don't even, yeah. And I know Donnie more than them, and he's probably, this just happened last day or so too, right? I mean, Russell called me yesterday, and I got an email about it. You can be sued for defamation this day and age, yeah. Well, you can be sued for defamation because the problem is like the stuff happened, but yet, like that's why I always bring up the fact that no one's going to talk about this stuff. It, like I said, if someone keeps doing something wrong and they keep going to court, and the court keeps throwing out like the stuff that's happening to them, right? There's nothing to stand. You can't sit there and, hey, this happened to you. And be like, no, it didn't. Nope. I wasn't found guilty, right? Even if it was the 20th time. I think that's the problem. Yeah, man, let me say something. We all do wrong things. We've probably all done something wrong in a tournament. We've probably all done all that stuff, right? The one thing I'll tell you, the people with morals are going to do the same thing regardless. They don't care if a camera's on them. They don't care if it's what they do stuff when no one else is looking. They do the same thing if someone's looking or someone's not. The other ones are going to do the other. I've always said there's two types of people. Some that read the rules, and like I don't study the rules that much. No info. What's the dates for the month out? Fine. I don't care what else is put on there. I don't care if it says solicit or this or that, whatever it is. I can't get info, done, on to the next rule. And there's other people that study them rules, and they know them to a T, and they know every wording of it, so they can manipulate the wording. I agree. I think that there's people like that. So, I think this is getting to people too. I think the rule. The weird thing I'll say about fishing is just because you get info doesn't help you. I think it sucks when you get beaten and it happened, or something like say info or doing stuff outside the realm that feels, you know what? I don't want to bring up that because that's funny. The funny saying that's always been said by the congressman and about videos. But anyways, it just sucks when you get beat by it, right? That's the part that sucks. Are you able to sink brush to fish in your big terms, or is that against the rules and big terms? No, Everyone seeks brush. I saw a video today of Brent Chapman. He was on Rayburn, and they were building these. I don't know if it was with who it was with, but Brent Chapman was over there. They were building these tops, and they were out there on the south end of the lake putting. I don't know when that all happened. I think it might have happened the last couple of days, but I've never heard of anyone ever in Texas ever getting in trouble for it. I mean, you can pass by a game warden, they'll wave at you, I'm sure. You prefer the chopper over the plopper? No, either or. I wish I could tell you. Yeah, I wish I could tell you that there. Guys will tell you there's a difference. There is a difference. I think stuff like that is one of the hardest things to prove which one's better. And I could go down a long rabbit hole about why that is. But I think it's very hard to say why one's better. And it's not about how many fish you catch or who's in the front of the boat or the back of the boat. I mean, it's a tough one because they both catch fish. So it's a tough one. I invented a vibrating glove for fishing beds. What do you think about being able to vibrate without dragging it? I don't want to get so I keep very, very quiet on stuff I see on the internet about sight fishing. So that's all I'm going to say. I keep very, very quiet because the stuff 99% of the stuff I see is, I'm not saying they don't think it works or whatever, but they're missing the point with it, in my opinion. So I keep quiet about that stuff. I just shake my head. If you're having to do a whole bunch of things, tricks, everyone's like, what's your biggest trick on sight fishing? I'm like, I don't have a trick. There's no trick to sight fishing. I probably spent 500,000 more hours doing it. So I read the fish pretty well. I understand some things that are going on, but tricks, no. I don't think. Yeah. Here's a hint. I'm not trying to get that fish to bite my bait. I'm not trying to get it to bite it. It doesn't want to bite it. It's not trying to bite your bait. They're not eating your bait. They're not biting your bait. It's not what sight fishing is for. They're trying to move your bait. It's the biggest hint I'm going to give you all. They're trying to move your bait. And they're trying to move it to get it off the bed. It's the only reason they do anything to it. They're just trying to move it. A lot of times you move it for them. You're moving it. A lot of times they don't have to bite your bait because you do it for them. You move the bait off their bed. But anyways, yeah. Yes, I am. I called up Michael Yoder yesterday, and I think that was him who called me earlier, or he texted me earlier. Yeah, I probably am going to get perspective mode. I always want, but I will say this. I wanted 2 transducers because say I was live scoping and a transducer went out, I wanted another one just in case something happened. I have multiple graphs. I wanted all my graphs the same in case one of my graphs went out. My battery video, I wanted all my batteries the same in case a battery went out. I bring extra fishing rods. I bring extra fishing reels, line, baits. I bring extras of almost everything we have. Anything that I know that continuously goes out, I want it too. So I've never had a problem with my transducer. Doesn't mean I won't hit a stump tomorrow, right? Or break it off or do something. So I've wanted one for an extra, but if I have it, I'm probably going to put it on perspective mode. So do I think the field needs to be cut down? Yeah. Well, I think this past weekend showed some things. BPT was going on, Bassmaster Opens was going on, NPFL was going on. I can't do the math real quick. So I'll try real quick. Close. 80 people in BPT, 200 and say 20 in the opens. That's 300. And NPFL has 100 and what, say 20? 420. I can't even get myself to say professional fishermen. And then a lot of them aren't saying they're professional fishermen, but 420 guys are vying for spots on airtime, and there's not enough of it. And that's not even with the elites or the invitationals. So it's not that professionals need to be cut down. It's just a lot of people are just because there's more airtime too. Okay, so now there's 3 different ways to get it, right? And what I mean by airtime, there's 3 different like before there was one way live, and this was what was going on, this one circuit. Now there's 3 different circuits with all these people trying to get the same amount of coverage, and they think a sponsor cares. A sponsor cared if you're Scott Martin and Dustin Connell, right? Because they won. So of those 400 guys, right? And maybe I didn't get to watch the NPFL, any of it. And I know the guy who won has made quite a few top 10s and finally won one. So and I apologize if I don't know his name, but so him too. So 3 guys out of 400 got extensive, pretty good airtime that kind of matter. Now I know there's more in the BBT and stuff like what. All I'm saying though is a lot of people are vying for a lot of airtime, and before all of us are watching one live, but now there was 3 different lives. So now all of us got split up into 3 different ones. So I mean, yeah. Like I said, they're doing the same thing on TV. I click on this, like on my Roku, I got Peacock, Prime Video, Hulu, Netflix, whatever. None of them can say, "Hey, we're killing it," right? And it's good, gets to a point where like that's what it is. So I don't know. So I work out. So my wife was a strength coach in college for 8 or 10 years. So I've been asked to do videos. I just don't know if I can. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know. I don't want to come off as that guy. But I will say this. Played sports my entire life. My wife was a strength coach for the college. Like the luxury I had of her and then her boss, a guy by the name of Dan Eason, I worked out with him and her and ex-football players and basketball player, track guy, whatever you call it, all like past college, like all in my mid-20s to like mid-30s. I worked out 4, 5, 6, 7 days a week sometimes with like professionals. And what I mean by professional strength, not a trainer, not something that you go get your training license for 3 days and get it. My wife has a master's degree. She is certified in CSC and all the other little things you have to get certified that are like you just don't get that overnight. Like you go to college for this stuff and you do all like it's a lot. She wrote her whole thesis was on benching a 225 rep max versus to a 1 rep max. I mean, listen, the knowledge that comes out of her and watching her teach our kids like mechanical stuff is like through the roof. Like she's a principal now. Her first love is that. She is phenomenal at it. She can take kids and transform them into it's amazing what she can do. She did it with me. And now, trust me, we almost had a couple of divorces through all that because I'm pretty hard-headed and I kind of like to goof around and whatever. But like I loved it. I loved working out. I loved working out with him. I've gone through all different stages. Right now, I have not hit a weight room in a year. I my weight rooms keep getting taken away from me because I always had like free ones. I had them at the college where she worked, and then when she worked over here and over there was like these weight rooms, and I was always figuring out a way to work out, and do my own thing. I don't have that now. And then I got on this weird, crazy calisthenics thing, and I'm doing calisthenics every single day. I got pull up. I can do some weird things now. I've been on this path for like a year and 6 months, and I'm finally starting to see results where I can do some crazy things, and I love it. Is there an advantage? Absolutely. It's no doubt there's an advantage. Anyone that tells you not, that they're crazy. Because, man, my advantage when I was younger is I couldn't beat the knowledge of a 50-year-old guy who'd been fishing forever. I couldn't beat that guy. I could outwork him. I could pull on that. I could hustle so hard in tournaments and run and gun and do things so hard and like be exhausted, like just be exhausted. Like anyone that's ever fished with me, like, dude, he doesn't eat, he doesn't sit down, he doesn't, like, it's all day, every day. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. Working out, I think, helps that. I wouldn't say I'm always I eat as healthy as I possibly can. And what I mean by that is I'm not counting calories. I'm not doing any of that stuff. I will freaking sit down and eat a whole pizza at Pizza Hut. I will do all that. I will also work out. I was at the basketball gym last night with my kids at 5:30. We got done at 8:30. I was coaching them, and then I was playing ball with them. I played beach volleyball 2 or 3 days a week. I played soccer with my daughter and coaches and some of her friend. Like, we had a scrimmage for 2 hours. I ran around in cleats like a little kid. Sore as could be, and I mean getting after it. So yes, I think all that matters. It definitely matters with fishing. It does. I just think it's going to be better for you in the long run. I just think I can do things. I think it's easier to get up in the morning. I think it's easier to stay out there late, and I think it's easier to do it for multiple days in a row. I could do a whole series on working out and doing all that stuff. I just never have, but I actually love to work out. You can tell by how long my answer was. Are they're ridiculous? Yeah, I mean, people are going to pay it for it, though. They probably about to be on beds on Rayburn like this week. Not even close. Sorry, Clay. They're a long ways away. Do you like big swim mates? Yes and no. So I have a love-hate relationship with them because rarely are they going to do stuff for you in a tournament. Now, like 9 times out of 10, they're not going to help you in a tournament. I'm so tournament-based so I'll be honest with you. I went out there the other day to a lake. I was going to throw a big swim bait. I threw it a little ways, a little while, didn't catch anything on it. Did some other stuff, started catching some fish. Go back and forth. It wasn't right. Got tired of throwing it. And then I saw some crappie and ended up limited out in crappie. I mean, it's just one of those things that I like them and they're fun when it's happening. But it's kind of like those videos that people do. They're very misleading. And so I'm going to make some, like, we got some stuff coming out from Strike King. We got some things working on. I'm going to do my best to be as upfront and honest about those baits. And when I mean, they're going to catch fish. All those big swim baits and all that stuff work. Okay. But you remember that whole conversation about Ivy that I had earlier about what do you think about Ivy and why I don't like it? It's a bad misrepresentation of what fishing really is. And hey, look at all these 10-pounders I caught, and look at this, and look at how I'm doing it. I'm telling you right now, I've never been there, and none of that's going to translate over to like 99.9% of y'all. And so and that's why I said I'm a lot more proud of my big ones on Rayburn, because everyone that fishes, there's so many people that fish Rayburn that how I catch them, people can relate to that. It can help you. If I go to this pond over here, this lake over here, or whatever, and I catch 3 10-pounders on a glide bait, and got everyone else around the country is like, there's never even been a 10-pounder caught on my lake. Right? It looks cool. It's kind of fun to watch, but I still can't. There's a couple things I can't. It's hard for me to get on here and just make an entertainment video. I don't know if any of y'all like y'all can handle that every once in a while, but it's so much more about the learning aspect. And so it's a great question, and you probably were like, "That's not what I wanted at all" from that answer. But it's the truth. I have a when it's working, and I'm like, maybe this will work right here. It's awesome, but yeah, I think it's a hard thing for me because I go out there to do certain things, and rarely do I go out there and go. I'll put it to you this way: rarely do I go, I'm just going to go hunt for big fish today. When I caught my 11-pounder the other day, when I caught that freaking 1 almost 10 yesterday, it's not that I went out there hunting for big fish, but I caught 40 or 50 other fish, 2-pounders and 3-pounders and whatever with those fish. Like, it was just about catching fish. I always think that there's still a style you can fish for that's going to catch 2-pounders and 10-pounders. I know a big swim bait can catch a 2-pounder, but you're kind of going after a big fish. I need to get better at it. And what I mean by better is like, if I probably did it more, I'd probably have a better understanding. And I do have a pretty good understanding of it. It's just, I know maybe I don't know. Well, trust me, money, I'm going to be working on this over the next couple months. I'm going to actually do way more videos about this. So maybe I'll have a better answer for you. I do like them. They do work. I just think they're limited into how they work. How about that? I guess I could have just answered it that way. Y'all have to know I'm not going to just give y'all a normal answer. Invitationals are Friday through Sunday. Oh, thank you. So they're off days Thursday, I guess. Friday, Saturday. Oh, they're 3 days, right? Okay. Time on the water. I know where this is going from. Time on the water. Time on the water matters a whole bunch. I'm just telling you, time on the water is pointless unless it actually is quality time on the water. It should never have said time on the water. Time on the water is the most overrated thing in the world. Quality time on the water. It's a giant difference. Major difference. So just remember that. That's why I'm real big on that. Yeah. How shallow will you throw a Carolina rig? 2 foot of water. 2 foot of water. And done it multiple times in 2 foot of water and smashed on them in 2 foot of water. Ross Barnett was one. Livingston was one. Rayburn's been one. Be shocked. And you want to know what? And here's the craziest thing. It's not crazy to me, but I already know it's coming. You ready for this, Tony? 3/4 ounce weight. Not some stupid little 3/4 ounce weight. Okay. Hey, Tony. And here's another thing. I'm making a video within a week or two. I promise you. And it's going to be over Carolina rig. I promise you watch that video. That won't be in there, but I'll make it a point. There's going to be you're going to hear something in there, and I'll talk about the weight and stuff. But get ready for that video. I'm waiting on some other things to happen. But yeah. Area. Good question. I thought that was going to be an easy question. Let me think about this. Area, because especially in the springtime, because a pattern's great, but a pattern's always within an area in the springtime. Rarely can you run the same pattern all over the lake. Other times of the year, you can run the same pattern all over the lake. Springtime's the one time you can't because of the way they move in and out. in certain parts of the lake they move in and out. So yes, area. Good question. That might be the best question. That might be the simplest, best question ever. But area matters a lot more because of the way they move in. Okay. If you had to pick one person to take fishing with, dude, don't even retire. How about that? Retire. Can you do a video bass fishing just going along and fishing instinctively with different baits depending on how you feel and what you see at the moment? That was I mean, okay. I'll have to go. So leave these comments. That's basically Alabama waters. That's 100% what Alabama waters is. Um and Alabama waters is the one series that was like that from start to finish because it kept changing throughout the event. The Deepwater Series one, we kind of had an idea of what. Now the when I but I mean what I mean by that is practice. Yes, if you watch the practice videos of those, that's me instinctively just going down and throwing what I want to throw. Come tournament time, we all tend to go back to do what we did in practice. Alabama Waters was one of the few ones that there was a little kink in there where I kind of like figured out the jig thing. A guy asked me this, and I can do this. I can do it. And so I don't mind taking a, here's the poll right now. He said, "Man, Todd, why don't you just go to a lake?" And I would think it would have to be a new lake. I think I'd want it to be a new lake, like a lake I've never been to before. And record the whole day. 12 hours. Put it on YouTube. I don't there's probably if I and basically that was this. And maybe not 12 hours, maybe it's 8 hours, whatever. And record everything. Maybe I guess I could probably knock it down to like not have to show the running and stuff like that. So it still might be a 7-hour video and put it on YouTube. And I could talk throughout the entire I can talk throughout the entire day, be like that crazy person out there by myself. And I can talk through what I'm looking at. I'm thinking about this while I'm saying it. Okay. I could probably then go back. This wouldn't be hard. And I could probably go back and say, hey, I don't know if this matters. I'm spitballing stuff here. Like in the description, I say, hey, I caught 25 fish. And this wouldn't be hard. I could put every fish in there and be like description at 3:05, 1 hour and 36 minutes, whatever. Or I don't know. I don't even know if that's possible. I don't know if I make that one video or split that up into like 7 1-hour videos and just do that for the day. And that would me being fishing instinctively with maybe different baits. Maybe I could. There's times out there. See, that might be a hard one going to a new lake. If I went to an old lake that I kind of knew, I could go do different things and see if I could catch them doing that. Like this is what I would try. That I don't know. Let me know if that's crazy. Let me know if that is worth it. I don't know what people would think about watching a full day. Would it get boring? I mean, it could if I'm not catching them. That's, I guess, what I'm worried about. I mean, the attention span is so small. But I wouldn't be quiet. I would talk throughout the entire. I would have no problem giving you 7 hours of me speaking what's going on in my head. Is that something y'all would want? I mean, I'll make this video and freaking get like 100 views on it. Maybe I'll do it with my private channel. They would like it. My private channel, I guarantee would like it. I don't know. Comment on there. Even if I don't get to y'all's comments, I will go read them and see what y'all say. Yeah, definitely. It's not random. it's a the best way I can say is this. I heard someone, I don't want to misspeak here. I don't know if it was Chris or Corey Johnston or one of those guys. But they were talking about fishing like St. Clair and up in the Great Lakes. St. Clair might be the one where you just waypoint every time you catch a fish. And they would just do it. And what you would come up with are these groupings of waypoints of smallmouth. And St. Clair is like one big pond, right? One big circle. And you'd have these groupings of waypoints. So like you might have waypoints everywhere, one here, one there, but then all of a sudden, the more you get, the more they start to form like groupings of them. I would say that's kind of like this is for like it can be like that. There's definitely patterns. And I made a video about this the other day about how that was to my private group. He was asking about like baits to use, and I'm like, it's totally different. You can catch them doing everything you would normally do, but there's definitely other baits that work better. The seasonal stuff is huge. Structures, I think the structure's the same. You're able to catch fish off of structures that you were never able to catch fish off of. Well, you could catch fish off of them, like say a bridge. In years past, you would have to or any of that stuff. You would have to catch fish off bottom. Now you're able not to have to catch fish off bottom. So that's the difference, is that there's fish around these structures. And before you were only able to catch something pretty much on bottom. So there's a lot to it, man. It's random at times. You can always catch a random fish at time. But I would say getting on them, catching them is not random. It might feel random too. It's only random because we haven't done it because it's new, What's up, Brad? That is a question for the private group. There was a little bit more to that. And I've kind of, I have a gravel dog video, and I've been waiting till I didn't want the same thing to happen to like the haymakers, to where I did a video and it's so hard to get them. I wanted to make sure I got this gravel dog video, been waiting to put it out there. I'm waiting until they're actually in stores to where I don't put it out there and no one can get them. So it's coming out hopefully within a couple of weeks, hopefully within a week, This is the easy one. 3.75 rage swimmer, ghost shad on a squadron head. Easy. Or 3.25, either one, easy. Listen, deep, shallow, this easy. Cover tons of water with this thing. That's an easy one right there. Who's the best fisherman on the planet right now? Man. Wheeler. Probably Wheeler. It's hard to go against, regardless of what you think of Wheeler. Listen, he's still pretty phenomenal about how he thinks about fishing. With your sponsor, do you share equipment with your partner? I think me and Russell always, he's sponsored to a weird degree because he's not sponsored really. He reps so many companies, and he's always been very gracious with things with me, just like I am with him. And what I mean by that is I can't tell you how many times there's been, when you're a dealer, you get things like you get certain products of maybe Costa hats or this or that, and be like, hey man, here. He's always bringing us. He's always done that. Pretty much anything I ever get, if he's it's good in the fact that he also always has some of the same, not the same equipment, but like he doesn't need rods and reels. He's got them from all the time he's been with Falcon and everything else like that. He's got baits. I've got baits. I've got rods and reels. So like rarely we were, he rep Costa. He kind of, helped me with my Costa deal. So I don't need anything from him from Costa. He sure doesn't need it from me. Things like that. So, I mean, but all the other guys I've ever fished with, man, yeah, I try to be as, anytime I can give something away, or not give it away, but like help the cause. Yeah, I'm always trying to like help people out, especially like fishing partners. I mean, if you're fishing with me, like if you want 10 gravel dogs, you're getting 10 gravel dogs, right? I can't give you 10 gravel dogs because I don't have 10 gravel. I don't have a gravel dog. It's still to this day, I'm being honest. I don't have the new one yet. They're like the version that y'all have. I have all the prototypes and things that are basically the same version, but not one out of a package yet. Is it possible for a grand on Rayburn to be won without live scope? For the grand, is it possible for the grand? Is it? Anyways, I don't know what the grand means. 100%. Yeah, the invitational. There's a very, very, very big chance that will be one without live scope. I'm guessing easily the top 5 out of the top 10 are not live scoping. Man, I could get burned on that. I would think so. I would think that easily. I think maybe, yeah. It might be one on live scope. I don't know. We're gonna have to see. Listen, man. The thing about Rayburn is that wind and weather can get you out there live scoping. How about the cattle theory? Laying points, humps, groups are scattered. I don't know the cattle theory. Well, I mean, I understand. I think I kind of understand what you're saying about the cattle theory. Oh, there it is. Is it possible for the Grand Slam to be won without live scope? Okay, I was thinking invitationals. The Grand Slam, 100,000,000%. Because of the time of the year. There's gonna be so many of them on the bank. Yeah, big time. Big time. Very easy. Very easy to win that thing. I expect it to be won without live scope. This one's a tough. This one, I've had a couple of people ask me about like they always ask, like back in the day, it was like power poles or side imaging. Listen, if you're not a live scoper, don't get a live scope. If you are a deep water fisherman, you need both. If you've got live scope, spotlight is kind of irrelevant because you can't use live scope with spotlight unless you have a turret. Not, guys, I know what I'm saying. I understand if you have a turret and you can do all that, but I would say you need less of spotlight if you want to go live scope. I would probably take live scope over spotlight right now if it was me. What are the positive negatives about boat sponsorships and truck wraps? I've never wrapped a truck. I've wrapped a boat before. The positive things, the wrap absolutely helps your boat. Like when you take the wrap off, it definitely protects your boat. The negatives, well, it makes your boats. I mean, a good boat wrap looks good. I don't know if that's a positive. Negative is this: you get seen on the water, like you can't hide on the. That's the one thing I've hated about having a boat wrap, is being able to hide. You stand out. I'm just saying. Some people might want to stand out. I am a guy who on the water does not want to stand out. If in that regard. Whatever happened to the TTO Pro Championship in Lake Whitney last year? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if he's asking about. I'm so far down. That was asked at 12:26. Yeah, I'm an hour behind. I don't know. You got to the party late. I said, man, I'm not going to talk about Hallman. He's one of my best friends. He'll eventually probably talk about it. I'm just not going to. I'll let him talk about it, not me. I don't want to speak on his behalf. So, me and he will get on here eventually, I'm sure, at one point in time, I assume, but he doesn't want to yet. So that's why. The Nacogdoches is closer to Rayburn and Toledo than Nacogdoches or Kurth, for sure. Both those lakes. I mean, can you fish grass and trees? Yeah. But like, I used to go to Nacogdoches to learn how to fish Rayburn. Like, I would go practice stuff on Nac, and it would translate to Rayburn. The other ones don't that much. A little bit, but not as much. What's your issues fishing rivers? You almost won Darnell, but hate the Red River. Okay. See, we could end on this. Why I hate rivers. I hate rivers with a passion. I don't want to get into all this. Maybe I'll go into it in the private. Look, man, a lot more shady things can go down on a river. I always looked at it like this. When you put everyone on Sam Rayburn for the Invitationals or Toledo Bend, okay? Well, for the most part, I would like to say Toledo Bend, but someone didn't fish the same water as everyone else on Toledo Bend, even this past whatever. I still always say tournaments should be, we try to make tournaments as fair as possible. That's what we all want. I want to get beat by the guy who's a better fisherman than me, or figured it out better than me, all that stuff. Where I caught my 11-pounder and where I caught my 1 almost 10 yesterday, everyone can go find. It's right out there. It's right out there for the taking. Okay. Depends on if you find it or not. Now, I'm not saying it's the same spot or anything. I'm just saying, like, you can go catch that same fish. You can go find that same fish. You can get out there, and every one of us that has a boat can go find that fish. Rivers turn into a different thing. Who can get here? Who can get there? And some people like people that live on rivers. I get it. Like, that's their thing. I understand that that's really cool for them. That they're like, watch me get to this place and figure out a place that no one knows about and stuff like that. I get all that. And even when I'm saying this, like, I understand it can be fun, but it's still kind of one of those things that I don't like. It ends up being so much more about that and not about fishing. I guess that's what my, like, let me see if I can get a different boat. And I think that's part of the thing about live scope. I mean, I think there's some comparisons there. It's all about trying to catch a fish off a live scope, not actual just fishing, right? I'm fine with that argument. I have no problem with that being an argument that why people don't like live scope. I don't mind people arguing that don't like live scope for making a good argument. If you're over there, like, you know who I'm not going to bring up, who's now banned from my channel, live scope's cheating. It's desecrating our lakes, and just throwing out stupid stuff that is just, there's no thought behind any of that, right? I don't listen to those arguments. But if you're like, hey man, there's some people that like, man, live scope is kind of taking away the intuitive part of it, right? Like not the intuitive part, but like doing things that are, like figuring out patterns, doing this, like the instinct part of it, um, trying different baits, doing all that stuff. Like I'm with you on all that. I'm with you that as of right now, it seems to take away from that part of the fishing. I'm fine with you having a problem with that. Just like I think anyone on a river, and I'm not saying every tournament's one like that. I'm saying there's a reason we all go to Rayburn with all the same boats, and we go to a river, and all these guys go get these barred boats and these other little boats to bring on the river. And it turns into I got into a place, and that's how I think any of us that got into that place with a little bitty boat and doing something different probably would have won the tournament. It was less about fishing. Where most of the time, most of us want to go fish and just outfish the guy. And I could probably get a lot of it. Listen, I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying those guys aren't as good as fishermen. That's not what I'm saying. Because there's going to be comments galore. Once again, this is the problem when I do answer questions, M3. And I love answering questions. Problem is when I make videos and answer questions, people then start bringing up all this stuff, and I'm like, whoa, I didn't come up with this. I'm answering your question, and I'm glad you did it. This one little word in there. It's a second word in there. What's your? It's my opinion. It's why I don't like it. I love it. I've done good at Darnell. I've caught them at the Red River before. I've caught them on rivers. It's just not my favorite thing because I know there's a lot of different things that go on at rivers and tournaments, and there's always some shady stuff going on. And it just doesn't, I'm not a fan. Just not a fan. I don't know when I'll make it. I don't know when I'll make it back to Gunnersville. No, I don't quit pre-fishing for tournaments on Table Rock. I wouldn't. Hey, here's the deal. Remember how I said smallmouth that you start putting dots and they start becoming groupings? Well, to this day, I've had conversations about the water coming up on Rayburn and what happened during the Brandon Belt and all these different things. And I'm trying to chronicle all those different things because something happened out there that I haven't talked about, but something happened out there that we saw that I'd never seen before. I don't know if I'll ever see it again on Rayburn. It's kind of a unique deal. And so it's hard to get into what happened on Rayburn for the Brandon Belt deal. But something happened that was not normal. What I'll say though is that the more times you go to Table Rock, and yes, if they change every day, something's changing. I promise. Now it might take you 20 years to figure it out, but maybe we sit back and I think about so someone was asking me, how about this? Someone was asking me earlier, what makes a better fisherman? Like an average fisherman to a really good fisherman. I might go and Russ, I might take what you did and every day when I get home for 8 hours the next day, I'm thinking about this. And I can't stop thinking about it, guys. Half the time I go practicing on Rayburn or these other lakes, I practice after an event because I'm so mad or I'm so frustrated or like something I didn't figure out. I think the same thing with this. Okay. Eventually I sit around and like think about stuff like this. So I think over time you might start figuring something out. So I wouldn't stop. I would actually fish more. And it might make you do worse in the short run, but I think it will make you better in the long run. I think. I know Tater a little. I've spoke with Tater. I knew I knew George Jean. I still talk to George Jean all the time. You know, when I see him at tournaments and stuff, I talk to Tater. I think he's regarded as one of the best live scopers out there for sure. I will say live scoping though, I think live scoping is a lot like sight fishing in the sense of I think just because you can catch a fish off live scope doesn't mean you're a great live scoper. I think winning tournaments off live scope is very difficult. Just like I think winning tournaments off of sight fishing is very difficult. So I bring all that up because Tater Reynolds has won tournaments live scoping. So yes, I think he's a very good. We'll see how Tater does, and I don't know if he's going to or not. What I'll say about this, I think a really, really, really good live scoper, just like sight fishing, knows when to put it down. So I will say I will call a guy who's a really, really good live scoper if he can put the live scope down because he goes to a situation where live scope's no good, right? And puts it down and does something else. That's a great live scoper. I consider sight fishing the same way. I think I'm a pretty good sight fisher. I will not sight fish because I know it's not the way to win a tournament. Okay. On the flip side, we've won a lot of sight fishing events. Or let me say this: we've won a lot of. Okay, how do I say this? Because we say it all the time. We won the sight fishing event even though there was no sight fishing. So we might have come in 6th in an event, and we're the only one sight fishing. So Toledo Bend last year, I won the sight fishing event for Toledo Bend in the Open. No one else was sight fishing except me. I don't even know anybody else in the tournament that did it. Yes, I caught a couple on a frog and a couple big ones every day on a frog. What I'm saying though is I sight fished that event. It was my main sight fishing and frogging. But I won the sight fishing event. And you're like, well, you didn't win the event. Yeah, I get it. I can't win. We can't win every event. There was a freaking all of us. Ben won. Ben was the only one that won. So the guy that came in second, he didn't do good because he didn't win the event. You know, he might have done whatever he was doing, you know, and he won what we would call that. Like there's sometimes like, hey, we won the graph. Like if everyone's out there deep and you're up there fishing shallow, you know, on boat docks, you're like, man, everyone's fishing boat docks, but I beat everyone in doing fishing boat docks. At least it's something. It's just one of those things we kind of say like, hey, I would say those at times you need to put the live scope down because it's not working and it's not the thing to go do. You might even come in 30th if you put it down, but it's better than just going, this is what I do. I see some guys do some things and they do it. And you're like, man, you know, darn well that ain't the pattern. So I would say that's my advice to Tater would be, man, know when to put it down, right? Because there's going to be tournaments. We've already seen one. Darnell was one. Darnell last year. I don't think there was a single live scoper in that entire top 25. And it was kind of funny. We were kind of joking around because you look around that top 25 and there's a bunch of old hands in there all looking at each other going, hey, what's up? So, I mean, you know, I will say that for the private channel. Oh, good one. I like this. Because it's not for the fans. Everywhere else, so people don't realize iCast is not for fans. That's why you're not allowed in if you're a fan. You're only, and they cracked down this past year on it, that you're only allowed in there if you've only ever been able to get in there if you have the right credentials and stuff. So you have to be a part of some, I have to have like my Strike King rather outdoors, whatever. So it's not, so you're there to work. It's working within the industry. Everyone I know that goes there, and I'm not talking about pros, like everyone else, it's meetings. It's meetings all day long. A lot of the pros, I'm not that big, but a lot of the pros, they like go follow Scott Martin around. I mean, it's meeting here, meeting there. We all have meetings we have to set up for. And so I have meetings there. I don't have meetings like Scott or Kevin so we got meetings, we got videos, we got all these different things, and we're there to talk to that. Now, that's not saying you shouldn't be unapproachable, but you sit around there all day long, and fans are probably way more fun to talk to at times because you're just getting the BS. I would say if you've ever been around ICAST, you probably see more pros talking to other pros. It's like the one time of the year we're all together. Now, some of them don't like each other, right? But I mean, there's a couple of those guys I only get to see once or twice a year. So like David Mullins is one. Like, man, if you look up, me and David Mullins go and eat lunch. Me and Hallman go and eat lunch. Like, we stay together. I mean, now Hallman I see more, but there's guys I don't see that much. And so it's either like you're working, and you've got stuff to do. And then when you're done, it's like you usually go hang out with your buddies or something because there's 8 or 10 hour deals. And ICAST is long and not fun. Like, it's not that much fun for us because of it's different. Like the Classic, if you go to the Classic, way more fun. Dude, the time goes by like that. It's way more fun because you're just out there getting to be like shoot the breeze with everyone. But here it's so much more of a work environment. It might not look like we're working at times because it looks like sometimes we're standing around, but I promise you, like, then there's like 3 hours where we just spoke and did interviews and did this on this like stuff. That's I think. And a lot of times, like, man, if you sat back and watched, if you see me walking down the hallways of those things, I'm usually walking 100 miles an hour. And we all talk about like, okay, we don't go that way or we don't go that way because we're going to get stopped. We're going to get we go to like different booths, different things because we all have time slots. So a lot of times people are like, I have a time slot from 2 to 3, and then over here it's from 3 to 4. And you're just it's just work. It's more work. It's not fun. For a Classic, I might be in so-and-so booth and I'm there I'm not there to do anything other than just shoot the breeze. So come up and talk, right? ICAST is usually not like that. That's what it is. So I'll go for 12 more minutes. What's your honest opinion of the Lake of the Ozarks? I like your videos. Lake of the Ozarks is awesome. It's awesome. I like that place. I like that place because I get to catch them a certain way. I figured out a different way this time. That place just has them, man. And I like Lake of the Ozarks. I like the people up there. I like the lake. Drawbacks. I would get tired of the big boats. We're usually up there in October, so the big boats are going away. But the people up there are awesome. Like fishing around the docks, like doing stuff, and it's not just in all of the dock. There's a lot of fish. You can get a lot of bites. Lake of the Ozarks is awesome. It's one of my favorite lakes. Any stories on Kentucky Lake? All right, I'll hold back on that. Yeah, I got tons of stories on Kentucky Lake, but one of my favorite fishing stories of all time is Kentucky Lake. And I'll tell the story. But I'm gonna wait for Watson. I have to wait for Watson. I'm gonna tell the Kentucky Lake story. So be ready for that. Yeah, I'll tell the Kentucky Lake story one time. It's one of my favorite stories ever, maybe of all time. All right. I've never fished really on the Great Lakes, so I can't talk much about it. The guy that always won on Belton, can't remember his name. This is how far back that was 12:37. I'm over an hour behind comments. I think I know who you're talking about. I didn't have to really fish against that guy, but I think I know. I know that there was some controversy always behind that. Um, um, sorry, there's a whole bunch of stuff that it's not really questions. um, they got man. There's a sorry, I had to go through. Do you like the Bass Pro fishing the NFL, or did you enjoy it more when it was the guys that were new on the scene? Do you like the Bass Pros fishing the NFL? Oh, okay, sorry. Um, no, no, I think I like them fishing it. I think I'll pay more attention to it. Man, listen, you can't have. So it was just like when I fished the tour. I didn't like the guys on tour that were just there. I thought it took away the credibility of the tour. So the guys that just paid their money and they were there and never cashed a check were just, you know, I just didn't think that was professional fishing. NPFL, National Professional Fishing League. National Professional. Okay. So if you're going to call yourself professional, have professionals in there. And I understand what they're trying to do. There's also there's the qualifications aren't really like you're not qualifying for it. I'm not knocking any of it. I'm just saying I think the pros being in there or guys that you kind of well-known name. I like it. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think they're going to get more attention for those guys being in there. I think I got through all the cheating part. I don't think the fish in cages. I think that's like a club. I think that's a club thing. Like that's like old school guys in the club doing stuff like that. I think. Do I think people are bringing in fish that they didn't catch? Absolutely. That to me is different than the info. So I think all of us would agree that the worst kind of cheating, like hands down, like never should be allowed to fish ever again in their life, is like bringing in fish or like getting a fish you didn't catch. If we're going to have to put degrees on it, I think all of us would agree that's number one. Hands down, number one. Two, I think everything under that, and I would say, because the guy got in trouble for putting a 1 pound weight in a bass, not even the walleye deal. If y'all don't even know, we had a guy do it in Texas, put a 1 pound weight in a bass. I would say that's right on up there. That's like directly affecting, like you're 100% affecting the outcome. Like it's there. Info is still cheating. Okay. You can get all the info in the world. Jacob Wheeler could tell you, or Dustin Connell could tell you, give you every single waypoint on Toledo, and you go out there and zero. Okay. Is it still bad? I still think it's just whether you win or lose, it's irrelevant on the info. Okay. They're not the same, but what I'll say is this is if you win off of info and you win 50 grand and you wouldn't have won if you didn't have that info and you weren't allowed to get it, you still took 50 grand from everyone. Right? 10 grand, 1,000. Money is irrelevant too. If you go out there and beat everyone in a $1,000 event off of info and you weren't allowed to get info, do you think anyone cares that Okay, yeah, he didn't catch fish out of cages, but he got info, and that's what won. None of us cared. We all, I mean, we all cared. I'm saying none of us cared that that was the rule you broke. You shouldn't have been able to. So I know you're saying, I guess I was looking at what's worse. What's the most common? Fish in cages are not common. That is like that's it happened. I'm not saying fish in cages. I said fit bringing in or manipulating fish in a certain way, right? The actual fish. Is that common? I don't think so. It happens. And I would say that's where we have gone after that we can see something fishy. Sorry, the pun. We see something fishy going on, and it doesn't make sense. I think in all the professional side of stuff, I think 1,000% the worst, the most common is info. I don't even think it's close. I think it's info. And then I think there's some other guys. There's like I can just think of a couple that do other things that are gray, that are that I would say. How about this? They do it and no one else does it, and they usually do it because no one else would even think to do something like that. Because we like there's stuff that has happened, and when it happens, it's stuff that I wouldn't have even thought to ask a tournament director. And since I didn't ask him, it's not in the rules because the tournament director is probably sitting there going, okay, yeah, I guess I'm going to have to let you go on this. And then there's a rule the next year because of you, because no one in their right mind would have thought to. That's the stuff I'm talking about. And some people think that that's creative and thinking outside the box. Okay, you can think that. That's not what I think. Now I think, man, how do I get an advantage that, like, if I would have asked the tournament director, he would have said no. But since I didn't ask him, I'm going to do it and get away with it. That's what I think. What's the best way to clean it up, in your opinion? Easy. Easy. No one wants to do it. But by golly, you start handing out some freaking, not fines. Fines. No. You won't have to do anything public to humiliate them. That'll take care of itself, right? You're not letting someone fish the next week and everyone asking why. See, that still gets them that way, but that's just enforce them. Yeah, my bad. Enforce them. They're all there, ready to be done. Just enforce them. It solves it instantly. There's still going to be people who do stuff. But listen, jail time works. Like, people don't want to go to jail, so they don't do bad stuff. Some of us just don't do bad stuff because we don't do bad stuff. But I'm just telling you, enforce it. Watch what happens. Clean it up instantly. What happened with baseball? Suspension. 2 times, longer suspension. 3rd time, done. Whew. When's the last time anyone heard anything about Major League Baseball and steroids? They cleaned it up. Oh, I'm Marshall on Pickwick. I can't. There were rumors of snagging fish with the forward-facing sonar. Do you think snagging is the main obstacle to overcome? Should California hooked? Okay, no one's snagging bass. I'll clean this up real quick on LiveScope. No one's snagging bass on LiveScope. Ever. Good luck. Good luck in that. I hate the California hooked in the mouth rule. I think that's the stupidest rule ever. And I'll explain why. I'm going to end on this. Okay. I need to have a whole nother one of these. Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll go through. So comment on this. It's 12:40. It's 12:46. That's how I made it through 46 minutes of comments. So I can do another video and reply to all these that I didn't ever get to. I might do that. But I'm going to finish with this one. anyone that's ever live scope will tell you. Like, I don't even know where to begin. One, bass don't sit in front of your lure. Like, they don't sit in front of your lure. They're like, if you think this is a bass and this is your lure coming to it, they don't just sit there and let a bait come into them. If that was your strategy and your pattern, one, I wouldn't even know how to hook one. But let me tell you something. If you're in dirty water and you've ever live scoped, all bass look at your bait to a degree. Run from it, look at it, turn from it, do something. The ones that don't are the ones that never saw your bait. And let me tell you something. I've yet to hit one. I've yet to run into a fish ever. It's just impossible. It just doesn't happen. Anyone that's live scope, all sit there and tell you the same thing. A lot of times they look at it, and a lot of times they run from it and then come back. They almost all eat your bait coming behind it, never in front of it. You rarely ever below. So like it's almost if it happens, it's going to happen. I'll put it to you this way. You want to know how many fish I've snagged rattle trapping? Go ask any guy who rattle traps in the grass on Rayburn. Ask him how many fish they've snagged on Rayburn. There's guys, I guarantee you, that have snagged over 10 fish in their lifetime. Well over 10 fish. I know guys that snagged one every freaking time they go, just about. Now, is that fish going after it and stuff like that? When I say snag, got him in the back, got him whatever. I have zero problem with that. Like, we always used to laugh at a guy because, like, I was like, hey, he's like, I caught him in the freaking fin. They're going after their bait. They didn't, the bass wasn't sitting there and a rattle trap came over and it snagged him like a carp. That's carp. We've all snagged carp. You don't snag bass. The bass is usually going after your bait. So no one's trying. Rumors. They're not trying to go snag fish. It's not happening. I have zero concern of that ever happening and being a thing. I want to bring up the California thing. I think the California thing is horrible. One more bad thing that California does. Here's why. You have a jerk bait. You have a crank bait. You have anything with two trebles on it. It goes up there and it eats your bait. It eats it from the front. And you've got this hook, right? The front hook underneath the belly, all up in its mouth. And this hook over here isn't on anything. And you're fighting this fish. I've seen it 1,000 times. And you're fighting it. And the fish is doing all this stuff. And all of a sudden, this hook latches onto the back of the head, or the top of the head, or the gill. Now you got two hooks in there. Guess what? Every one of us, you can hear every pro out there. Oh, I got two hooks in it. Heck yeah. Right? We're glad. We got another hook in there. Probably going to land the fish. And all of a sudden, this front hook out of the mouth comes off. Now you got this one back hook in there. And you get it in. Now I got to throw that thing back. I hooked it in the mouth to begin with. And then all of a sudden I got it in the back hook and then the front hook came out. Now I got to throw it back because I know I hooked it in the mouth. I saw it. But in the midst of fighting it. So no. I think it's a horrible rule. That's why. Because 9 times out of 10, this with treble hooks happens all the time. That might happen 3 or 4 or 5 times a day. If you're catching them on a crankbait or jerkbait, that can happen a bunch. Snagging a fish, other than rattle trap fishing, I've snagged them Carolina rigging. And I think it's because they're eating the weight. And when you set the hook, you think it's got the weight, and you set the hook and miss, and that one maybe once every 2 or 3, 4 years. So maybe like less than 5 in my life. So I don't think there should be a rule that happens to someone, and that's a lot of Carolina rig fish. That's like 5,000 fish. So that's like one out of every 1,000 fish you might snag a Carolina rig fish. That's not a pattern. That's just part of fishing, right? I mean, that just happens. I don't think there should be a rule that says for the things that are common, like the hooks doing all that. I don't think we should have a rule that is going after the 1%ers as opposed to the 15% that it's you're hurting that. Does that make sense? Hope that makes sense. All right, I gotta go. I gotta leave. I am gonna go. I'm gonna go read the comments about the question about the whole 7-8 hour long straight up no editing YouTube video. I'm gonna read that, and then I'll go read too if oh yeah, train of thought. If I need to go back here and do the whole answer all the questions for the rest of it that I didn't get answered. Yeah. Man, there's a bunch of I'm so far behind. Sorry, guys. All right. All right. Thanks for joining in, guys. See y'all.